You went up there for only a few hours. We were lost without you, Jesus. You left us for a couple of hours. We were like an orphan.
In the sunny paradise of Tenerife, Spain, a devastating tsunami and violent storms unexpectedly strike, shattering the tranquility and transforming dream vacations into harrowing nightmares. Cars are swept away, football fields lie in ruins, and panic grips both residents and tourists alike. Amidst the chaos, a haunting question lingers. Could this catastrophe be a manifestation of divine wrath? Join us as we delve into the enigmatic nature of these calamitous events, seeking harmony and understanding through the wisdom of ancient texts concealed within the archives of history. Tenerife's catastrophic storm shock. Imagine a place called Tenerife in Spain. It's so beautiful, like a perfect spot from a dream, with beaches where the sand feels like soft sugar under your feet. But now, think of something completely different. A huge, scary wave, a tsunami, comes crashing down while you're enjoying the ocean. Everything around you gets swept away in seconds. It sounds like something from a scary movie, but this can actually happen in real life. It's terrifying, right? But why do these giant, frightening waves come out of nowhere? Some people wonder if it's a message from the heavens. Tenerife is a magical place not too far from the coast of Africa. It's blessed with incredible natural scenery, weather that makes every day feel like spring, and traditions that go back centuries. People from all over the world know about this island, and often call it the Island of Eternal Spring because of its never-ending pleasant weather. Ancient poets and historians, like Homer and Herodotus, once wrote about its unbelievable gardens. They believed it might even be the mythical Garden of Hesperides, a place of wonder where the daughters of the great Greek god Atlas took care of apple orchards that were unlike any others in the world. But let's talk about something unexpected. A storm, but no ordinary storm. This one was powerful and sudden. Imagine being on a holiday, and out of nowhere, the skies darken, the winds howl, and a monstrous storm unleashes its fury on the island of Tenerife. The storm is so strong that cars get dragged into the ocean like they're nothing more than tiny toys. A place where locals gather to play soccer, to laugh and shout in the sunshine, gets completely ruined. This nightmare began after the people who make decisions on the island, the local government, warned everyone that a very bad storm was on its way. This wasn't just a small warning, it was serious, because the storm was enormous. It roared through the northern part of Tenerife and didn't stop there. It went on to cause chaos on other islands nearby. The island of La Gomera was hit particularly hard. Enormous waves smashed into the seawalls, the barriers that usually keep the sea at bay. Water flooded the streets, turning roads into rivers in just moments. It was a scene that would be hard to believe if you weren't there. People who were there couldn't help but capture the moment on their cameras as water charged through the streets like wild horses. It was a mixture of beauty and terror, a reminder of how powerful nature can be. The storm came out of nowhere. Some people say it wasn't because of the changing weather or the earth being upset. They think it might be a message from God, a kind of anger from Him towards people who don't change their bad ways. Even though a lot of people nowadays don't pay much attention to this idea, especially many in modern churches, the idea that God can get angry is actually a big part of the Bible. This anger comes from God not liking sin and punishing those who don't say sorry or change their ways. Nowadays, a lot of people don't like to talk or think about God being angry. But even if it's uncomfortable, it's something talked about a lot in the Bible, and it's important for Christians to understand if they want to truly know God, who is all about love, truth, and life. Leon Morris, a scholar, said that in the Old Testament, God's anger is consistent. It's not just Him having a bad day, it's how He naturally responds to bad things. For example, there's a place in the Bible, in a book called Exodus, where God talks about this. He tells the people of Israel not to mistreat foreigners living with them. If they do, and those foreigners ask God for help, God will get really angry. He says He'll punish the Israelites severely, even to the point of death, making their wives widows and their children without parents. This is a way the Bible shows how seriously God takes wrongdoing. This isn't a new idea. It goes all the way back to the beginning of the Bible. When Adam did the one thing God told him not to do, it led to death coming into the world. This is written about in a part of the Bible called Romans. So from the very start, sin, doing things that go against God's ways, brought God's serious anger. This idea of divine anger, or God's anger, isn't just suddenly mentioned. It has been part of human history since the very start because of the wrong things people do. The Bible also says that death is the punishment for sin. This is mentioned several times, like in Romans. Moses, another important figure, wrote in a psalm that our lives are short, and that shortness is a sign of God's anger over all people because of sin. This is a heavy concept, but it shows how deep and serious God's feelings are about right and wrong. Leaving behind Tenerife's disaster, we look into the idea of God's anger. Does it really affect our world? We'll look into the real signs and what they mean. Wrong decisions turns into devastating revenge. Let's talk about how God's anger is something that shows up a lot in our world, which is full of wrongdoings. You can see signs of God's anger in sad places, like cemeteries. Every time we go to a funeral, it reminds us that if we don't look for safety in what God offers, we all face a never-ending kind of death. In the stories of the Bible, especially the first parts, we see many times that God really doesn't like sin and can react very strongly. Let's look at some stories from the Bible to understand this better. First, there were Adam and Eve, the first two people, who had to leave a beautiful garden God made for them because they didn't listen to Him. Then, there was a huge flood that covered the whole earth because people were acting very badly. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were wiped out because of their wrong actions. There's also the story of a big and powerful ruler, Pharaoh, and his soldiers, who were beaten by the sea itself when they were chasing the people God was protecting. And then, there were two men, Nadab and Abihu, who were punished with fire because they didn't respect God's rules. In all these stories, we see how seriously God takes His own holiness and purity. He doesn't stand for any kind of bad behavior, but it's important to understand that God doesn't rush to punish. He's not quick to get angry. In fact, there's a part in the Bible that describes God as being slow to get angry. This shows that He is patient and gives people time to change their ways. But being patient doesn't mean He lets bad actions slide forever. The same part of the Bible that talks about His patience also makes it clear that He won't let guilty people go unpunished. For example, even when God used other countries like Assyria as tools for His anger, it was part of His plan and showed His patience and timing. He uses His anger in a way that fits perfectly with His other qualities, like His love and fairness. This idea that God waits before He gets angry should make us want to do better and turn away from doing wrong things. We shouldn't see His patience as Him ignoring justice. Instead, it's a chance for us to make things right. After all, God is clear about not letting wrong actions go unnoticed or unpunished. This is part of what makes Him just and fair. He balances being slow to anger with being fair, which is a part of His greatness and shows us the right way to live. From the very first book of the Bible, Genesis, to the last one of the Old Testament, Malachi, there's a clear message. God really doesn't like sin, and this is something seen in every story, with every group of people, during all times. Even though God often lets the mistakes of His people slide, as mentioned in Romans chapter 3, verse 25 in the New Testament, there's a strong, continuous message throughout the Bible about how seriously He takes the wrong things people do. This strong feeling doesn't just stay in the old stories. It goes right through to the stories and teachings of the New Testament as well. In the New Testament, there's a part where it talks about whether God will come back to earth. Specifically, in Matthew chapter 24, verse 36 and 44, it says that nobody knows when Jesus will come back, not even Jesus Himself while He was on earth. This message was first given to the people living at the same time as Jesus. But it's meant for everyone, no matter when they live. The main point here is that we're not supposed to spend our time trying to guess the exact time Jesus will return. The Bible never says we should do that. Instead, what it does say is that we need to be always ready, because Jesus will come back when we least expect it. The idea is like when parents go out and tell their kids to stay alert because they'll be back, but they don't say exactly when. The kids don't know when their parents will return, so the best thing for them to do is to stay ready all the time. In the same way, we're told to live our lives in a good way all the time, to be prepared for Jesus' return, because it could happen at any moment when we're not looking for it or thinking about it. In the Bible, specifically in Matthew chapter 24, verse 44, it says that Jesus' words have a lot of power and importance. But if someday someone figures out the exact date when Jesus is coming back, then we wouldn't need to always be alert or prepared. The whole point is that nobody can know when Jesus will return. This is a big rule in the Bible, and it's meant to keep us on our toes, living good lives every day. Even though this is pretty clear, throughout history, lots of Christians have tried to guess when Jesus will come back. They've set dates, but every single time, they've been wrong. Let's talk about two dates that some people thought were important. The first is May 21st, 2011. Then there's December 21st, 2012. The second date is tied to the Mayan calendar, but there's nothing in the Bible about this date, so it doesn't really connect to Christian beliefs. Now, back to May 21st, 2011. This date was called Judgment Day by a man named Harold Camping, who worked for Family Radio. He once guessed that Jesus would return in 1994, but obviously, he was mistaken. Harold Camping came up with the 2011 date using some math he made up based on the Bible. He took a date he guessed was when a big flood happened, about 4,990 BC. Then, he used a verse from the Bible, 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, which kind of says that one day for God can be like 1,000 years for us. He connected this to a story in Genesis, which talks about 7 days of flood warning. But just like his first guess, Harold Camping was wrong about May 21st, 2011. This shows us something important. No matter how hard people try, no one can pin down the day when Jesus will come back. This is because the Bible teaches us that the exact time is not for us to know. Instead of focusing on trying to guess the date, what we're supposed to do is live our lives well, always being ready, because Jesus' return will be a surprise. Now we move from old tales to today's world. We'll check if people like Harold Camping are telling the truth or not. Let's dig into what they say about the end of the world. Could this be the revelation? Is it the end times? Let's dig deeper into how some people have tried to predict the end of the world, like Harold Camping did for May 21st, 2011. He looked at a specific date mentioned in the Bible, the 17th day of the second month from Genesis chapter 7, verse 11, and matched it with our calendar. But is there any real truth to how Harold Camping figured things out? Let's break it down. First off, Harold Camping didn't pay attention to the whole message of 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, which says, 1,000 years are like one day. This part of the Bible is trying to tell us that God doesn't think about time the same way we do. He's beyond all that, not stuck in minutes and hours like us. Second, the story in Genesis chapter 7, verse 11, which talks about the flood during Noah's time, doesn't hint at all that the specific days mentioned have any secret meaning about the future or the end of the world. Third, Harold Camping's starting point, the year 4,990 BC for the Big Flood, is just a guess. There's no solid proof in the Bible to back up that date. Harold Camping's way of picking out May 21st, 2011, really steps away from the basic teachings and understandings of the Bible. So, was there any real chance that Jesus would come back on that specific date? Well, according to what the Bible teaches, Jesus could come back on any day, which means May 21st was just as likely as any other day. But not because of Camping's calculations. Does Harold Camping's way of setting dates hold up with what the Bible actually says? No, it doesn't. It's sad, but true that Harold Camping and others might keep trying to pick new dates and then come up with excuses when those days pass without incident. Here are the key takeaways. The Bible doesn't want us spending our time trying to pinpoint the exact day Jesus will come back. There's no hidden code in the Bible that tells us when this will happen. Instead, what the Bible really pushes us to do is to stay alert and ready all the time, as said in Matthew chapter 24, verses 42 to 44. The fact we don't know when Jesus will return should push us to live every day like it could be the day. It's like life is a big test to see how well we can do, how kind and good we can be to others. This whole idea teaches us not to wait around or waste time trying to figure out when the world will end. Instead, it's a call to live our best lives now, to be good to others, and to stay ready and alert. It's about making the most of our time, doing good things, and helping out where we can, instead of getting caught up in dates and predictions. That way, no matter when Jesus decides to come back, we'll be ready and living right, just how we're supposed to. Let's talk about what happens when a group of people keeps saying no to God's kindness, forgiveness, and messages, even after they've been given lots of chances to change. It's like if someone keeps ignoring a friend's help or advice, no matter how many times it's offered. At some point, if they keep refusing to listen, there's no reason to keep offering the same chances over and over. Even if they got a do-over, a chance to start fresh, they'd likely just end up making the same choices. There's a part in the Quran, a holy book, where it talks about this. It says, imagine if you could see people standing near a huge fire, regretting and wishing they could go back and do things differently, promising they'd believe and do better. But the truth is, even if they got another chance, they'd probably go back to ignoring God's rules. They're not being honest with themselves or anyone else. Because of this, when someone ends up in a bad place after life, according to the Quran, it's fair. They even admit it themselves when faced with the truth in front of God. They agree that what they're seeing is real and accept the consequences for not believing when they had the chance. But it's important to remember, not all hard times are about being punished. Sometimes, good people are tested with tough situations too. This can happen for different reasons. Maybe to give them a chance to earn greater rewards later, to help them grow stronger, to clean away small wrongdoings, or to show their true character. The Quran talks about this, saying that often, the best people, like prophets, face the hardest challenges. This is because their ability to handle these tough times can lead to greater rewards after life. There's a story where someone asked the Prophet Muhammad, who in life faces the most challenges, and he said it's the prophets, then good people after them, and then the next good people. It's like a test to see how strong and faithful they are. Nature, like big winds or storms, is also talked about. These can be seen in two ways. They can be something good, bringing rain and helping things grow, or they can be tough and challenging, like a test or even a punishment. It depends on how people have been living and acting. If people are kind and live well, these natural events might be a blessing. But if they keep doing wrong, ignoring what's good and true, these could be a wake-up call. Next, we'll see how God's anger and His love can fit together. It's not about one or the other. It's about understanding both sides. Let's uncover this mystery together. When nature gets mad, God's love shines. When we talk about the weather and different seasons, it's a good chance to think about why we're here and how we fit into the bigger picture with God. The word wrath sounds really serious and can make us think of someone being very angry, ready to punish their enemies. There's nothing comforting about this word. So if even human anger can be frightening, imagine how much more intense God's anger could be. But then, we remember that the Bible describes God as being all about love. So how do these two things, God's anger and God's love, fit together? This big question makes us dig deeper to really understand what God's anger actually means. According to a dictionary, anger can mean a really strong, almost revenge-like feeling, but it also talks about fair punishment for doing something wrong. Let's think about how this works with people. If someone does something really bad, they might have to face serious consequences, like going to court. This is seen as fair, because the punishment matches what they did wrong. Now, if we think about this idea with God, we can see his anger not as him being mean for no reason, but as him making sure justice is done. He's not getting angry just to get back at people, but to show what's right and what's wrong. So, what does the Bible tell us about God's anger? Here are 3 parts from the Bible that help us understand this better. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the badness and wrong things people do, especially when they hold back the truth by doing wrong. Romans chapter 1 verse 18. This means God's anger comes out when people act badly and ignore what's true and right. But if you're stubborn and you don't change your heart, you're just making things worse for yourself. You're saving up anger for yourself on the day when God will show his fair judgment. Romans chapter 2 verse 5. This part is saying that if people keep refusing to change, they're actually setting themselves up for God's fair judgment in the future. Whoever believes in the Son has forever life, but whoever doesn't believe in the Son won't find life, because God's anger stays on them. John chapter 3 verse 36. Here, it's saying that believing in Jesus leads to eternal life, but not believing leaves one facing God's anger. In these sections we're discussing, there's a lot of talk about the strong feelings of anger that come from God. It's really important for us to understand why God might feel this way. This anger is usually because people are not following what he wants. They're acting in bad ways, not saying sorry, or changing their bad behavior, making the same mistakes over and over again, and also not accepting Jesus as the one who saves and protects us. To put it more simply, God gets really upset when people do things that go against what he thinks is right. So let's dive deeper into this idea of God's anger and what it really means. Many people find it hard to understand how God, who is so full of love, can also have feelings of anger or want to punish. It's like trying to mix oil and water. They seem too different to be part of the same thing. But think about it more like a parent or a teacher, someone who really cares, but also sets rules. Picture this: God as the best, most just judge there ever could be. We all walk our own paths through life, making decisions every single day. Just like in a classroom or a family, there are rules. These aren't there to spoil our fun, but to keep everything running smoothly and fairly. And one day we'll have to sit down, sort of like at the end of a school year, and go over everything we've done, just like a big final exam. This isn't meant to scare us, but to remind us that our choices are important and come with results. Now, the concept of God being loving yet strict might make more sense if we start from the very beginning of human history. Think back to the first people, Adam and Eve. God gave them a beautiful garden to live in, with just one rule: don't eat from a specific tree. It was a simple rule, with a clear consequence if broken. When they didn't follow that rule, there were big consequences, not as a random punishment, but as the direct result of their choice. This was the first lesson in cause and effect, showing that our actions have real impacts. This is where we see the balance. God's love gives us the freedom to make our own choices, but his fairness means there are consequences for those choices. Just like parents set boundaries for their children because they love them and want to protect them, God sets boundaries for us. He knows without rules, there's chaos. Without consequences, there's no responsibility. And without guidance, there's confusion. But there's more to it. This isn't just about following rules to avoid punishment. It's about living in a way that brings peace, order, and happiness. God's guidance, even his corrections, are meant to keep us safe and help us grow, not just to keep us in line. Imagine a world with no stop signs, no guidelines on how to treat each other, or no sense of right and wrong. It would be a mess, right? That's why rules exist, and that's why there are consequences for breaking them. We now deal with big questions about right and wrong and kindness. How can we understand God's anger and his kindness at the same time? Choosing right with God's help. We'll now dive deep into the idea that the rules and promises from God are not just there for when things go wrong. These rules or principles show how much God keeps His word. Whenever we trust Jesus to be our Savior, it's God's principles that kick in to save us. It's because of these principles that we get to know God's kindness, forgiveness, help, and how He listens to our prayers. But these same rules are also why someone might feel God's strong unhappiness or anger. God is always fair, full of love and just. The love He has for us and His sense of what's right come from the same place. We have the power to choose which side of God we meet. Now you might wonder, isn't being angry wrong? To understand this better, let's look at a story from Jesus' life. Remember when Jesus walked into the temple and found people using it like a market? They were there selling things and exchanging money, not praying or respecting the place as they should. So what did Jesus do? He didn't sit back. He took action. Jesus cleaned out the temple, pushing out the sellers and flipping over their tables. He told them, "You're supposed to be using this place as a house of prayer, but you've turned it into a hangout for thieves." This is a story from the Bible, from Matthew chapter 21, verses 12 to 13. When Jesus went to the temple, He saw something that made Him very upset. The place that was supposed to be for praying had turned into a spot where people were buying and selling things. This upset Jesus because the temple was a special place meant for talking to God, not for making money. The people at the temple were not being fair. They were cheating others, especially those who didn't have a lot of money or power. This made Jesus very angry. But His anger was different from the kind we usually see. It was because He saw people being treated badly, and things that were supposed to be sacred were being disrespected. This type of anger that Jesus felt is called righteous anger. It's when you get mad for good reasons, like when you see someone being treated unfairly or something important being ruined or used in the wrong way. It's okay to feel this kind of anger when we see something wrong. But even when we're angry for a good reason, we have to be careful about how we act. Just because we're angry doesn't mean we can do whatever we want. We have to find ways to show we're upset without doing bad things ourselves. There's a wise teaching from the Apostle Paul that says, "In your anger, do not sin." This means that even when we're really mad, we shouldn't let that anger push us to do wrong things. We can be upset, but we should still try to do what's right. Now let's dive even deeper into understanding God's anger and what it means for each of us. We've already talked about how God's rules are clear. Doing wrong things leads to consequences because of God's need for fairness. But there's a big question left. How does this affect us? Especially when we think about the consequences of doing wrong. Think of it like this. Whenever we do something wrong, it's like stacking up a pile of wrong things that need to be sorted out. God sees all these wrongs and knows they can't just be ignored. This is where His judgment, or His decision on what should happen because of those wrongs, comes into play. But here's where it gets interesting and hopeful. Even though all these wrongs need to be addressed, God gave us a way out. This is the part where Jesus comes in. Imagine that all the anger and fairness that should have come our way because of the wrong things we did, Jesus took that upon Himself instead. It's like if someone stepped in and took the punishment for something you did, so you don't have to face the harsh consequences. The Bible talks about this in a book called Isaiah. It says Jesus was hurt for our wrongs. He took the punishment to make us okay, and because of what He went through, we can be healed or made right with God. Not only did Jesus take all this upon Himself, but this was actually part of God's plan all along. It was His choice to let Jesus take all these consequences, so we wouldn't have to. The Bible says this was God's will. He planned for Jesus to go through all this pain and suffering as a way to fix the pile of wrongs we built up. By doing this, God's fairness is met, but we also get a chance to start fresh without the burden of our wrongs. So, what does all this mean for us? It's like being given a second chance, a really big one. Even though we all have done things we're not proud of, kind of like wandering off on our own and losing our way, God has provided a way back. He's saying, here's a way to make things right. We're like lost sheep who have gone their own way, but God has made a path for us to come back. Was the devastating event in Tenerife a natural disaster, or could it be a divine message we're all missing? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.